will also note that it doesn't appear in the evidence that he ever offered Mrs. Hugh an opportunity to sign that notebook as a true and accurate record of the conversation.
When you visited the site on the 15th, how many members of the public were present on site?
Just the employees of the company who were working.
That's not a member of the public. How many members of public? So not employees, how many members of the public?
I'm afraid you're going to have to rephrase your question. I just don't know what you mean.
I think the jury got it. If you didn't understand the
What, that
question,
it was satisfactory? Yes, of course they understood that it was satisfactory. It complied with the legislative requirements. Would that be helpful, sir?
Yes, Mr. Campbell, your next witness. Ms. Hugh.
I think she's in the public gallery. No, she's not in the public gallery.
See, that's what he's doing is attacking the investigation. Try and show in the jury's mind that the investigation was flawed. It's closing the windows because there's a few facts which will come out. That's why I try and change the throughout it. And when you actually haven't got much of a case, all you can be able to do is attack the investigation. I'll leave it all basic.
So you keep your voice up, direct your comment to the judge, please, and repeat after me. I do solemnly
and sincerely
and truly declare and affirm
that
the evidence I shall give
shall
be the truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Thank you, Ms. Hugh. Yes, Mr. Campbell.
There are pages, I think, 79 or 80 onwards. He's Hugh, director. I'm only going to deal with those bits later, Judge. Timing, because really this is where this is an important cross-examination rather than an examination in chief, to a certain extent. And Mr. Collett's been paid by words, so he asked me if he could ask a few more questions than I do.
Mr. Collett's getting paid by the results.
Could you give your full name, please?
Lisa Hugh.
Is it correct that you're director of LH Event Safety Services for the last 5 years?
That's correct.
You have a degree in health and safety from Manchester University?
Correct.
Not Manchester Poly?
No.
No. Is it correct that, in your opinion, you've gained a vast amount of experience from joint visits with experienced health and safety specialists and from specialist inspectors from local authorities?
That's correct.
Is it correct that you'd had several emails and phone discussions with Mark Roper about what was required to manage health and safety for the event which we're dealing with today?
That's correct.
Did you produce a site-specific risk assessment for this event?
I did.
In January of 2016, did you write a number of drafts of the risk assessment?
I did.
Did you send the final draft to Mark Roper and Chris Woodford and other members of the MR events team?
I did.
Did you send those documents for approval?
Yes, I did, yes.
Were they approved?
Yes, they were.
13th of February 2016, did you arrive on the site in question at about approximately 7 a.m?
Yes, I did.
When you arrived there, I'll lead on everything, Gavin, there were no cabins for you to work for, is that correct?
That's correct.
Did an induction take place?
Yes, it did.
Did you give that induction?
I did.
Who did you give the induction to?
I gave it to the cabin and fencing contractors.
What was the nature of that induction?
That was full site induction and vehicle movement around site.
Did there come a time on the 16th when you saw a Mr. Roper drive a buggy past the cabin and onto the field?
They did.
As a result of you seeing that, did you say anything to Mr. Woodford?
I did. I called Mr. Woodford and told him that a guy was driving the buggy with no induction.
Why did you tell him that he'd driven a buggy with no induction?
It's the policy to have an induction before any vehicles are driven on site, and ultimately it's Mr. Woodford's responsibility to ensure that that happens.
Can you offer any reason to this jury why Mr. Roper did not have an induction?
He said he was too busy.
He was too busy?
Yes.
Did there then come a time that you had a radio call from a security guard?
Yes, there did.
What was the nature of that call?
The nature of the call was to inform me that there'd been an incident where somebody had been hit by a buggy.
Did you attend the scene of the alleged incident?
I did.
Who did you see there?
I saw Mr. Boom on the floor and Mr. Roper sitting in the buggy.
as a result of what you saw, did you have a conversation with Mr. Woodford?
Yes, I did.
Did you give him any advice?
I advised that an incident had occurred on site and that was read or reportable.
Why did you know it was reportable?
Because the gentleman in question was in severe pain and was needing to be taken to hospital.
Well, that wouldn't necessarily always refer to a vidor thing. Did you realise that it was a fracture?
It was suspected fracture.
Would you have advised that there was a vidor report necessary if, for example, the injury had been to his thumb?
No.
Or to his finger?
No.
So it was about your initial
Yes.
view of the scene to report?
Absolutely.
There came a time when the powers that be came along to discuss matters with you?
Yes.
Did you cooperate with them?
I did, yes.
In relation to the health and safety policy and all those matters in general, were you ever instructed by the company to do anything with those policies?
No, I was just instructed to be familiar with those. It was not my responsibility to do anything else with those.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
It was not my responsibility to do anything else with the policy other than make myself familiar with it.
Okay, thank you. Now, of course, I've cut that short. You all know with the vidor, the problem you've got with it is when the regulations changed, it's a lighter touch reporting policy. The advice I'll always give you is that although even up to 3 days, your duty, 3 days and above, is only your duty is to record it. Record everything, because you don't know how it's going to turn out. And those are guidelines, and they're not tram lines. And there are some people who think that, because when the regulations changed, was about 2 years ago, that, oh, it's okay, he's not going to be in hospital for more than 7 days. Oh, I don't know whether it was a fracture, or, oh, he wasn't unconscious, so I won't bother doing anything. For the sake of 2 minutes, make sure people you're dealing with record everything. Even if the recording is, I saw the injuries, and I decided not to make a vidor referral. Because no one's going to be criticised for making the wrong judgment, provided you've made a judgment and you can justify it. And, you know, there are some people who play fast and loose. I think zero tolerance to injuries, zero harm is the best way to run any sites or anything like that. If an injury occurs, you don't know whether it could be an injury, which ultimately will need reporting, so record everything. If in doubt, report it. You know, health and safety ignore most of the reports anyway. It's great in this case. They've come round so quickly over someone who's got a slight injury to a hip. They're over tasked. There is, you know, what's it? Down in the southwest, you've got like 2 or 3 officers dealing with potentially 4 or 5 serious incidents every month. They're stretched. So your advice to your people and to your companies, if there's any sort of injury, record it. If in doubt, report it. Because then you've fulfilled your duty and you can't be criticised for over-reporting, and you certainly can never be criticised for over-recording. If you'd like to wait there may be some questions.
Yes, Mr. Collett.
Thank you, Your Honour. You all right, Miss Hughes? You've got some water there.
I'm okay, thank you.
If you need anything, just shout.
I will, thank you.
Why? Why did I just do that? Totally different approach. Yeah? Last approach, sorry. Obviously, you know where I'm going with that. Just get more and more angry. This one, no point. Absolutely no point shouting at her, because I'm not going to get the answers I want. And plus the fact, if it's a long case, people get told, oh, he's been a right swine, that bloody defence barrister. God, he gets stuck in. She's sitting there, like, come on then. I'm going, want a glass of water? You right? Okay, if you need to sit down, just tell it and we'll get you to sit down. All right? Ms. Hughes, you're employed by MR Events, aren't you?
As a consultant, yes.
Yeah. You run your own consultancy business. Are they your only clients?
No, they're not.
You prepared, amongst other things, a series of documents for them and helped them with it. Were you responsible? Did you have any input into the company health and safety manual?
No, I wasn't.
Have you seen it?
Yes, I have.
Have you read it?
Yes.
Could you turn up? It's section 4, which in your bundle could be page 61, 60, or 62, or thereabouts.
Should be page 59, 60.
Yeah, it's
page 60.
It's section 4, Your Honour, that I'm
yes,
particularly going to.
Page 60.
Grateful. Do you have it?
Yes, I do.
Oh. Health and safety consultants. 4.1. Where a health and safety advisor is appointed to assist the company, then the health and safety advisor will assist. And then there's a colon, isn't there?
There is.
And then there's a series of things that you're going to assist in. Is
Yes,
that right?
that's right.
You are that person. You are that independent person that's been appointed to assist the company. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. 4.2 is to monitor the company's compliance with current health, safety and environmental legislation. Now, we've heard from a previous witness that it might not be perfect, but it's certainly adequate.
Yes.
So, tick that box. In an accident and a near-miss investigations, as instructed by the company, so in other words, where something has happened or nearly happened, then you're going to be asked to evaluate it. Is that what I'm reading here?
That's correct.
And that's just so the members of the jury can follow where we're going.
Yes.
In acting as the point of contact for the inspectorate, local authorities and enforcement officers whenever necessary.
Yes.
So you help with interactions with other authorised bodies.
Yeah.
And then in providing any changes, developments or additions to the health and safety legislation.
Yes.
And we can read on 4.7, just for their completeness, identifying and facilitating any health and safety training required by the company's employees.
Yes.
So it's your responsibility to identify and to train them.
In induction training, yes.
I missed one out. I know. I missed one out. 4.3. What does that say?
In all matters pertaining to and in connection with health and safety and their responsibilities.
So what do you think is your responsibility under 4.3 towards the company in ensuring that the health and safety that you are monitoring is sufficient and adequate?
It's my responsibility to provide the documentation as instructed at the beginning of the contract. It's also my responsibility to monitor the ongoing conditions of the site and what's happening, and it's also my responsibility to advise my client what they need to implement in terms of safety.
Yes. Do you have Exhibit 3, or if you don't, you get one? It's a map.
Yes, I do, yes.
Thank you. Where do you base yourself during the day when you were on this site?
The site production office was my base.
Did you leave it at any stage during the day?
Yes.
How often?
Unable to confirm, but on a regular basis.
Once an hour? Once a couple of hours? Once a morning?
Maybe more.
Once in the afternoon?
Maybe more.
Maybe more. So fairly frequently.
Fairly frequently,
Yeah.
yes.
And where did you go? Did you always go to the same place? Did you do a circuit of the site, or did you simply go to different places at different times?
Different places at different times, depending on what was happening.
And did you go into the main inner field?
I did, yes.
How did you access it?
Via the entrance adjacent to the security office.
Well, that's the entrance to the pedestrian route.
Yes.
Where's the entrance? Did you not go through the entrances, the main entrances to the field?
Well, I was already in the production office, so I would take the pedestrian route around the field.
Sorry, not the site. Do you see where it says the field? That's
Yes.
the inner bit.
Yes.
And if you look to the right of the map, you can see entrance to the field. Someone's written there's a series
Yes.
of 3 arrows.
Yep.
Did
So
you
I
go
would.
in? Which of those did you go in? Any of them? None of them?
The pedestrian route.
Pedestrian route.
Yeah.
That doesn't look like it goes through into the field.
No,
It looks like it goes into the pedestrian route, but it circles the site.
Yes. It would depend on where I was going on the site. If I wanted to go to the field or the production office, I would use various entrances.
Did you go through the vehicular accesses we see marked entrance to the field?
Quite possibly.
And what was there?
The field, the infrastructure of the
What was at the entrances
event.
in a health and safety?
Security.
Security.
Yes.
Always there?
To my knowledge, yes.
And if they had not been there, would you think that was a failing of the security company?
Quite possibly.
Because you was told them, make sure nobody gets in without certain accesses. To quote from Mr. Greaves, that there was no unauthorised access by the public.
Absolutely.
That any passes were being shown by any contractor.
Yes.
And to ensure that all vehicles had banksmen
Yes.
when entering the middle field.
Yes.
Was that the case on the 15th?
To my knowledge, the incident occurred because there was no banksman.
But then how did he get into the inner field? He should have been stopped with the security that you put in place.
Yes. Well, the security contractor put the security into
We'll come
place.
to them in a
Yes.
minute. But did you make sure that security was in place.
Yes.
So if it wasn't in place, whose failing is that?
The security was in place when I left that position.
If the security wasn't in place, whose failing was that?
Mine.
Thank you.
Any re-examination, Mr. Campbell?
I've never seen Mr. Collett be so brief.
No, is it?
Mr. Roper was not inducted into the use of the machinery which he was using, is that correct?
That's correct.
Why was he not inducted?
He refused the induction when asked and left the production office.
As the health and safety
This
advisor...
does not arise out of my... I'm sorry. This
no,
does not arise.
Yeah, all right.
This does not arise out of my question.
Yeah, okay, go. Technically, I can't ask questions about matters he hasn't raised in cross-examination, but for these purposes, we'll just deal with it this way as if he had a longer cross-examination. Your relationship with Mr. Woodford?
He was my client.
Sorry?
He was my client.
I wish you'd said lover then.
Did you find him health and safety aware?
Absolutely not lover.
Did you find that he took health and safety seriously?
Yes.
Did you receive backup from him in relation to the work you did?
On occasion, yes. I sent information to him for review, and that was responded to.
But you know as well as we all do that policies are policies, aren't they?
Yes.
How keen was he to ensure policies were put into practice?
He assumed that that was our responsibility on site, to put policies into practice.
Would he take an interest and make sure that the policies were put into practice?
No.
Would he ask you if you had enough time to put the policies into practice?
No.
Would he care if the policies were put into practice?
No, I'm sorry.
To your knowledge.
No, that is not a
To
question
your
to be
knowledge,
asked.
did he ever express to you any criticism when he realised policies were not put into practice?
No.
What was he bothered about? The events going ahead?
Yes.
Making money?
Absolutely.
Again, this is question
these are leading
way
questions,
out, and
Mr.
they're
Campbell.
way out of order.
That's all I'm going to ask on that. Any questions so far in relation to matters?
Lunch.
Well,
That's where we've got lunch coming up at 12, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to be making a closing speech, and I'm only going to do with one witness, which is the poor individual who ran over the other guy, and I'll deal with him after lunch. How many of you have done the voting app?
Are you all ready?
Do you want to do a little vote? See how you
Should
feel
we
at the
do
moment?
To get onto the app, what you need to do is
Nice.
open your browser and just type in sli.do and that will take you directly to the voting page. You may need to put in, ask for a code, the code is verdict.
David, yours has got through, I see.
Oh, yes, okay.
Oh, yeah.
But just to give you a little example, Mohammed would probably be in the witness box for more than a morning. 3 to 4 hours.
And the rest.
Lisa would probably be in the witness box for 2 hours. This would probably be what you've heard now. Would normally take about a day. We'd be closing at the end of the first day after all these witnesses. Because it would be about trying to find inconsistencies. We would be trying to ventilate and get more information about the company, the way it works. So I know that this is artificial reality to a certain extent, because there's a method in everything we do, because both of us are looking at what the end game is, which would be our speeches to the jury at the end, and if necessary, how the judge is going to sentence.
If convicted.
When convicted, yeah.
If convicted.
Well, I have to say that this shows what a very open-minded jury you are, that only halfway through the prosecution case you haven't made your mind up. That's excellent. The right time to make your mind up is right at the very end, so thank you.
100%. I love you, whoever you are. Stick with me.
Is it correct that you had to travel to work by public transport?
That is correct,
Why was that?
because I don't have a licence.
How did you go into the field?
I used a buggy.
When you went to the field, did anything happen?
I collided with a member of staff.
Were you aware that the company had a health and safety policy?
I was.
Did you ever read it?
No, I knew we had one, I didn't know where it was.
Had anyone told you to read it?
Lisa had told me that I should read it.
Had anyone checked that you'd read it?
No.